It's 3 a.m. The room is dark, but the cycle of scrolling continues, keeping the brain in a state of high-frequency alertness long after the body should have begun its shutdown. This constant input forces the mind to remain in a loop of active processing. It generates a cloud of stress that keeps your heart rate elevated and your nervous system primed for action, even as you try to force yourself into sleep. When the brain attempts to transition from this state of high arousal directly into deep rest, the handoff between consciousness and the physical shutdown sequence can become desynchronized. The mind attempts to enter sleep while the nervous system is still firing with residual anxiety. Then you suddenly wake up. You open your eyes and find that while your conscious mind has returned, your physical body remains in a state of total suspension. There is a heavy, restrictive pressure on your chest. Every attempt to pull air into your lungs feels like a struggle against a physical weight, and despite your brain's clear commands, your limbs do not move. You are witnessing a specific biological failure, a state where the brain is processing external reality while the body is still receiving the signals of deep sleep. This leaves you in a position of complete physical vulnerability. You are conscious and aware, yet unable to respond to your surroundings, creating a profound conflict between your will to move and your body's silence. As you realize you are completely paralyzed, your senses begin to distort the environment. From the dark corner of the room, a tall, distorted silhouette materializes beside your bed. For centuries, humans experienced this without a biological framework to explain it. Early cultures across the globe interpreted this presence as a literal curse or a visiting supernatural entity. This led to the widespread folklore of a demon sitting on the chest of the sleeper, physically pinning them down and draining their breath while they lay helpless. These myths were humanity's way of mapping a story onto a biological error that science only recently began to categorize. This timeline highlights REM sleep, where vivid dreaming occurs. To prevent physical reactions, the brainstem releases inhibitory neurotransmitters like glycine and GABA. These block motor neurons, disconnecting muscles. Sleep paralysis occurs when the brain wakes up before these chemicals clear the spinal cord. Your motor cortex sends a signal to your hand to lift, but the path is still chemically blocked. Your brain interprets this lack of feedback as an external force holding you down. What feels like a demonic attack is actually a timing error in the brain's transition from a dreaming state to a waking one. When the brain realizes the body is paralyzed, it triggers a survival response in the amygdala. This glowing node is the center of your threat detection system, and it is now operating at its highest capacity. The amygdala is designed to find the source of danger. Unable to find a physical predator, it begins to interpret shadows and vague shapes as a hostile presence to justify your physical state. Since you are still technically in the REM stage, your brain pulls imagery from your dream state and projects it into the room. It blends dream fragments with the actual geometry of your bedroom to create a hyper-realistic hallucination. The shadow demon is a visual representation of your own physiological panic, manufactured by a brain trying to make sense of its own internal paralysis. As the hallucination looms closer, your immediate reflex is to fight. You exert every ounce of mental energy in a struggle to move your limbs and break free. However, this struggle increases your heart rate and your levels of cortisol. This reinforces the amygdala's conclusion that you are in immediate danger, keeping the fear response locked in place. This feedback loop causes the hallucination to intensify. The more you struggle, the more the brain amplifies the imagery of the threat, making the shadow appear more vivid and the weight on your chest feel more substantial. It is a self-sustaining cycle, where the effort to escape physically only serves to deepen the psychological experience of the paralysis. Ending the experience requires a conscious override of your survival instincts. You have to stop the physical struggle and focus entirely on small, controllable movements. By focusing on slow, rhythmic breathing, you signal to the nervous system that the threat is not real. As the amygdala's activity diminishes, the brain can finally begin to process the waking state correctly. Once the inhibitory chemicals are reabsorbed and the motor neurons are cleared, the paralysis ends. The hallucination vanishes the moment the brain and body are back in sync. The experience demonstrates how a simple delay in neurochemistry can completely alter our perception of reality. When the biological mechanism is understood, the phenomenon becomes a data point in brain function rather than an